Have you ever wanted to start playing City Heroes and get stuck with not having any ideas of what kind of character you want to make? I'm Controlled Chaos, and in this video I'm going to go over just that. Now this will be both for new players to the game and veteran players on how to get unstuck with not being able to come up with ideas of characters. First off, for new players, you want to familiarize yourself with all of the costume pieces in the game. This will help you when coming up with future designs and creating characters a lot quicker. You'll also want to get familiar with all of the archetypes and power sets, as this also helps out with getting the idea that you want to do and what is possible in City of Heroes. Now, here's where it gets into even the veteran players can get help with these ideas. Do not force or focus too much on thinking about an idea. Do not sit there and rack your brain trying to come up with ideas. This will just upset you and make it so much more frustrating, and you'll just be too hard on yourself. Instead, you want to do other things, and I'll get into that a little bit later down the line. I want to go on and talk about play the game. Look at other players' designs. Let their themes and designs influence you. Don't just straight out copy them, but look at something and go, ooh, their slide idea I can go off of, and let that sort of simmer with you. Then, like I was saying, you want to do other things. You want to keep your mind focused on something else that your subconscious can be working on. And the reason being is that while you're doing that something else, it can influence you. Whether you're listening to music, watching a show, chatting with friends, playing another game, whatever it may be, or even reading a book, those things can influence you. Another thing to bring up is writing out the biography of your character, whether it be a backstory and stuff like that in the character creation. You don't have to do this part. I vary it depending on whether I have the idea for a background story or not when creating the character, or if it will come up to me later on. And that's really great because you can actually change that and adjust it or add it while playing the game. So don't worry about having to come up with a background story right away for your characters. And my question to you guys, and comment down below, do you guys actually make and write up bios and put them on your characters? That's what I'm wanting to know. I'll give you an example of how I came up with a character when I had a blockage of ideas. So I wanted to make a new character, but I didn't know exactly what. And so I wanted to get my mind off the things and have some fun. And one of the ways I have fun is I like to go out and ride my bike. I like to just cycle around, relax, and just listen to some music as I ride. So as I was out riding my bike, I had Ozzy Osbourne's Hellraiser song pop up. And as soon as that popped up and the lyrics got sort of stuck in my head, I got the idea for a character. I immediately took my cell phone, jotted down the idea for when I got home. And this is another tip that you can use. When that idea pops up, you want to jot it down then and there. Don't go into great detail. Just jot down the basic information of what you need to refresh your memory for when you do get ready to make that character. So you could be at work or you could be out doing something else. Just do a quick little note to remind you. Anyways, back to the story. So what I did with Hellraiser, when I made the character, it influenced me, and I went back in power sets and I thought, well, I could do fire. Well, that's common. I don't want to do something common. And I set rules for myself. And that's another thing you want to do, is you want to set rules for yourself of how you want to make characters, whether you want to make things look unique or you don't care about that and you just want something that's just fun. I wanted to be unique, I wanted to be fun and different from when I played. So that's where I went, and I chose spines for my attack, and I chose to do a brute because I wanted to do a lot of damage over time while being in the fight. So I chose spines as my attack, and I chose fire as my defensive power because there's a lot of fire effects that go off, giving me a bunch of dots to do, which spine also has a bunch of dots. So this character does good damage, dots up, and then with the brute, the damage increases over time. And that's what I wanted for the character. I wanted this character to be a Hellraiser. Now, when I designed the look, I went with a different direction with the look and the feel of the character. I didn't want a Hellraiser like you're raising hell. I wanted hell and then razor as a shaving razor. So that's how I named the character, and that's how I designed the character. I gave the character a demoness look to her, and then on top of that, I also added and made sure to choose the spines and looks that made it look like she had very sharp razor-like spines coming out of her body. And then the color choice palette I chose, of course, was the red and yellow to give a fire feel to it. And that's how I went about creating this character in the costume parts and choosing a lot of the powers and things like that to create this character. That's how I go about creating the characters. That's how I went about creating Controlled Chaos. I originally created Controlled Chaos thinking, I need a name for my YouTube channel. I need a name for how I represent myself on YouTube and in these video games that combined together. And that's where Controlled Chaos came about. I was just sort of sitting about trying to figure things out, doing other things, and then it came to me, wait a second, I have disabilities that make my body move sporadically, chaotically, and I try to control that. Controlled Chaos, and that's where the idea popped off. Then I went into City Heroes and I created Controlled Chaos. I chose Masterminds because I love the Mastermind class. And so that's the direction I went with choosing it. And then, of course, Chaos, you have to go demons. You just have to. There was no debate about it. So I went demons, and then I went the thermal radiation route. And that's how Controlled Chaos came about. Now, one last thing I want to give it as a bonus bit of information. When you're looking at costume pieces, archetypes, and power sets, don't dismiss them because you don't like them that much. Still utilize them. There are parts that I favor and I like, such as I like the gladiator shoulder pieces, I like the large robotic gloves, and there's just certain parts that I gravitate towards that I like. But I also like using the other parts. I use the parts that will fit well for the character I'm designing. Same with the body shape. I have male characters, I have female characters, I have large characters. I wish they had large female characters that were beefier and not so hourglass figured, because I'd like to make a female character that looks like that, but they don't have that option in the game. Hopefully in the future that will happen with some of these private servers. I'd love to see them make a model like that for a female character. That'd be really, really cool in my eyes. Anyways, I hope you found this helpful. If you did, please hit that like button and subscribe if you haven't already. And if you know anyone else that's having trouble coming up with ideas, feel free to share this video with them. Have a great day.